It's almost midnight, and somewhere in your house, coming from behind the refrigerator or under the baseboard near the bathroom, there's a single, steady chirp repeating every few seconds. Most people hear it, sigh, grab a flashlight, hunt for 10 minutes, give up, and just learn to sleep through it. What almost nobody realizes is that the sound itself is a message with an exact measurable meaning encoded inside it, one that scientists can actually translate into a real number using nothing but a stopwatch. And there's a twist near the end of this one, something about that exact cricket currently hiding in your wall that most people never find out until it's too late to unhear it. Most people guess that chirping is just random noise, something crickets do out of habit, the same way a clock ticks without meaning anything. The real answer isn't even close to that, and by the time we get to the end, you'll understand exactly why that sound never actually stops on its own, no matter how long you wait it out. Stay until the end. Let's follow this one from the second it decided your house was worth entering. She didn't wander in by accident. She followed something specific. Crickets that end up inside houses are, in the overwhelming majority of cases, drawn in by three things working together: warmth, moisture, and light. As outdoor temperatures drop in the fall, the gap between a cold yard and a heated house becomes a massive draw, and a cricket's body, cold-blooded and entirely dependent on the surrounding environment for temperature regulation, will move toward that gradient almost automatically. Add a porch light or a lit window at night, both of which attract the smaller insects crickets sometimes feed on, and a gap under a door frame or a torn window screen becomes less an accident and more a fairly predictable point of entry. That single chirp behind your fridge tonight is very likely the end result of a very specific, very deliberate chain of small decisions, not a random insect that got unlucky. Now here's the part almost nobody knows about the sound itself. That chirp isn't made with a mouth, or a throat, or vocal cords of any kind. Male crickets produce sound through a process called stridulation, rapidly dragging a rough, file-like edge on one wing across a scraper on the other wing, essentially playing their own wings like a tiny bow across a tiny violin string, hundreds of times per second. The sound is loud enough to fill an entire room, specifically because the wings are also shaped to amplify the vibration, acting almost like a built-in speaker cabinet. And it isn't random noise either. It's a highly specific mating call, engineered by evolution to travel exactly as far as it needs to travel to reach a female cricket without wasting energy reaching further than necessary. The single male currently hiding somewhere in your walls has been running this exact broadcast, on a loop, specifically hoping a female somewhere nearby is listening. There's actually more than one song in his repertoire, and each one means something completely different. Most people assume every chirp from a cricket sounds and functions the same way, just one continuous mating call repeated all night. Entomologists who study cricket acoustics have identified several distinct song types produced by the exact same insect, each triggered by a different situation. There's the calling song, the long-range broadcast meant to attract a female from a distance, the one you're most likely hearing right now. There's a completely different courtship song, quieter and more rapid, used only once a female has actually approached and is standing close enough to hear something softer. And there's an aggressive song entirely, sharp and irregular, used specifically when a rival male wanders into the same territory and needs to be warned off before an actual physical fight breaks out, which means the steady, evenly spaced chirp you've been hearing for the last hour could, without any warning, suddenly change rhythm completely, and if it does, it likely means the situation behind your wall just changed too. Either a female arrived, or competition did. And this is where the story becomes something you can actually measure yourself. Crickets are cold-blooded, which means their chirp rate is directly tied to the temperature around them, and the relationship is precise enough that it has an actual name: Dolbear's law. Count the number of chirps in 14 seconds, add 40, and you get a genuinely accurate estimate of the temperature in Fahrenheit, accurate enough that some field biologists have used it as an actual backup thermometer. That cricket hiding behind your fridge isn't just making noise. Its exact chirp rate, right now, tonight, is a live readout of the temperature immediately surrounding it, encoded in a signal it can't consciously control or fake, because the muscle contractions driving that wing movement are directly governed by its internal body temperature. Which means, in a strange and very literal way, that steady rhythm keeping you awake is your house quietly reporting its own microclimate back to you, from inside a wall cavity you've never actually measured with anything else. By the time the chirping slows down after midnight, something has already shifted, and this is the twist most people never expect. Here's the detail that changes how you'll think about that sound completely. The chirping you've been hearing isn't actually meant for you, and in a very real sense, it was never a warning or a message about your house at all. It's a love song being broadcast blindly into a space the cricket assumes is open ground, because his instincts have no concept of drywall, insulation, or a family sleeping 20 feet away. He isn't aware he's trapped. He isn't aware he's indoors at all. As far as his entire nervous system is concerned, he is simply a male standing in open territory, doing exactly what every male cricket before him has done for millions of years, and the walls closing him in are just an unusually quiet, unusually warm patch of ground that happens to muffle predators far better than the yard ever did. And here's the part that actually surprises people. If a female cricket happens to be anywhere nearby, maybe having entered through the exact same gap he did, possibly weeks apart without either of them knowing, she doesn't chirp back. She goes almost completely silent and simply walks toward the loudest, clearest version of the sound she can detect, using tiny sound-sensing organs located, strangely enough, on her front legs, just below the knee, essentially hearing the world through her own kneecaps, which means that steady chirp you've been trying to hunt down and eliminate for 3 nights straight might, by the time you finally find the source, already be one half of a pair, quietly located less than a foot from each other in the dark, completely unaware that the room around them has walls, a family, or a flashlight beam sweeping past them every night, looking for exactly this. And there's one more layer to this that most people never think to ask. Why does a creature this small commit this much energy to a single repetitive sound instead of just wandering to find a mate directly, the way many other insects do? The answer comes down to a basic survival trade-off crickets have been running for millions of years. Actively searching in the open exposes a cricket to predators constantly. Birds, spiders, rodents, anything hunting by movement. And every minute spent wandering in daylight or open ground is a minute of real, measurable risk. Sitting still in a sheltered gap and broadcasting a call instead lets the male stay hidden while doing the searching remotely, letting sound do the traveling instead of his own vulnerable body having to cross open, dangerous terrain. It's a slower strategy, but a dramatically safer one, and over enough generations, the crickets who called from safety and simply waited survived to reproduce more often than the bolder ones who wandered out in the open looking for a mate directly. Every chirp coming from behind your fridge tonight is the current, living result of that exact evolutionary math, refined over an almost unimaginable number of generations, playing out in real time behind your drywall, completely indifferent to the fact that a human family is trying to sleep 20 feet away. That single chirp coming from somewhere in your house tonight. You've probably tried to hunt it down at least once, flashlight in hand, giving up after 10 frustrating minutes and just learning to live with it. It isn't random noise. It's a mating call built entirely out of two wings, rubbed together like a tiny instrument, precise enough that its speed alone can tell you the exact temperature of the room without a thermometer. It has at least 3 distinct versions, depending on what's actually happening in that gap. Behind your wall. It followed warmth, moisture, and light through an entry point you probably didn't even know existed. And somewhere in your walls tonight, that lone, patient broadcast might already be quietly working exactly as intended, one half of a pair standing less than a foot apart in the dark, completely unaware they're doing it inside someone else's home. Tell me in the comments, have you ever actually found the cricket that was keeping you up at night? I want to hear it. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.